Welcome to the Heal Your Heartbreak podcast with your host, Breakup Bestie, aka me, Kendra. Breakups are hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Each week, I will be taking you through a different topic as it relates to breaking up, healing from heartbreak, growing in your single life, dating, and getting back into happier and healthier relationships. The goal of this show is to provide support, hope, tips, and to remind you that above all, this too shall pass. Welcome to episode 23 of the Heal Your Heartbreak podcast. And today we are going to be talking about rebound relationships. And this topic was submitted by a woman in my Facebook group. And the funny story is she said, I'd love to hear about rebounds and monkey branching. And I thought to myself, what the heck is monkey branching? So I went on to handy dandy Urban Dictionary and looked it up. And apparently monkey branching is when you are still in a relationship with a partner, but you branch out and consider your other options. So in case you were like me and didn't know what that is, there is your fun fact for the day. But I thought rebounds would be a great topic to cover on the podcast. And I don't often talk about what like moving on looks like into new relationships. And a little teaser, I'm actually in a couple weeks will be having my friend Valerie on the podcast, and she is a dating mindset coach. And so I will be interviewing her, and that will be out in a few weeks. So you guys will get to dive into a lot more dating after breakup stuff. But today, we're going to dive into rebounds. And rebound relationships get a bad rap, and in my honest opinion, for good reason. They can be super hurtful for actually both parties involved, and they are a big distractor from the healing process. However, I want you to know that I'm not. If you are in a rebound relationship, if you've had rebound relationship, it is not a reason to beat yourself up. It's completely normal. I think we have all been through them, including me, but I just wanted to take this episode to talk a little bit about what rebound relationships are and why we can fall into them. So I first want to start off by kind of defining what is a rebound. I think sometimes people assume that a rebound is just the next relationship after a breakup, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I personally think that what defines a rebound relationship is the motive. There are a few different questions that you can ask yourself to define whether or not a relationship is a rebound. And these questions really just serve to figure out what your motive is in the relationship. The first one is, are you still in a lot of pain from your ex in your relationship? I don't believe that you have to be fully over your ex to begin dating again, because that takes time, and we can be healing and moving on at the same time. They don't have to be they're not mutually exclusive. But if you are still all wrapped up with your ex, that typically means that you are using your new relationship for ulterior motives, and it probably is a rebound relationship. The second question is, are you using this relationship as a distraction from your heartbreak? And like I just said, it's okay to not be done healing when you move on, but if this relationship is the only thing that's holding you together from like your intense breakup pain, it's likely a rebound. And a follow-up question to that is, ask yourself, if you lost this new person, would you go right back into the same heartbreak pain from your ex? Like, is this the, Band-Aid that's preventing the wound from gushing blood, That's how you can determine if it is a distraction. So if it's a distraction, if it is, just your crutch while you move on, that's a pretty good indicator that it is a rebound. And then the last question is, would you be with this person if you didn't just go through a breakup? And that's a good one to get into, because not to say that the new person you're with isn't a good person. It's not what I'm saying. However, we do tend to lower our standards and ignore our needs when getting into rebound relationships. And that's because when I won't use the word desperately, but when we so much want companionship again and we want that feeling of validation and that feeling of love, we tend to put on some blinders and go for people that we might not normally have gone for. And we settle for people that we wouldn't normally settle for just because our most important goal is having companionship. So, if you find yourself in a relationship like that pretty quickly, I'd say time is another thing that can let you know if it's a rebound relationship. I don't think there's any particular time you should wait after going through a breakup. It really is just going to come down to your motives, which is why it's really important to be super honest with yourself. We can rationalize it to other people, but it's very important that you are at least realistic and honest with yourself that if it's only been a month since your breakup, do you really think you are any amount over your ex? But I can't put a time frame on it because I've seen people out of breakups 2 months and then they meet the person they're going to marry and it works out really beautifully. But just keep an eye on your motives. That's really the bottom line of this first section here. I also want to distinguish a rebound relationship from things like casually dating around, one night stands, or maybe like hookups with friends or, just things like that where you're kind of just having fun. I personally think all of those things are okay. I think it's totally okay if you want to, go out and have a one night stand or, call up like a guy friend that you used to hook up with or whatever you need to do. I think that's totally okay, unless those things are being used as your main form of coping. If that is your only vehicle for healing, again, it's just going back to that same motive thing. You're just using it to distract yourself. If you are using it in addition to talking about it, journaling about it, doing all of those self-care and self-love activities, then that's awesome. Then that's like going out, having fun, seeing the other fish in the sea. And again, it's totally okay if it's used sparingly. And the second caveat is it has to make you feel good. And that part is very important. If you are going out and dating people because your friends think you need it, or, you get pressured into going out with some guy, that's not going to serve a very good purpose. And I remember for me, after my last breakup, I had this one night stand with a guy that I had always found super attractive. And then, we did it and then he left and I just sobbed. And I thought, okay, like for me, at least right now, like one night stands are not going to work to make me feel good. They're clearly making me feel worse. And so I was able to have that awareness and then not utilize that as a way to feel better. So if you are, I won't even call it rebounding because they're not relationships, but if you are utilizing seeing other people, dating, hookups, whatever, if you are doing it in addition to all of the other soul healing after your breakup, and if it makes you feel good, go ahead. I think it's totally okay to honor yourself and go have fun. I wanted to pop on here and interrupt the episode for a hot second and remind you that if you are going through a breakup or are still struggling with a past breakup, I have a step-by-step system to help you heal your heartbreak. I know oftentimes after a breakup, we feel completely blindsided and totally paralyzed and have zero idea how to move forward. With my online course, I take all of the guesswork out and show you exactly how you can move forward in your life and let go of your ex. I can promise you there is an easier way to go through a breakup, and it costs a lot less than what you're probably already spending trying to feel better. To learn more, go to healyourbreakupcourse.com. And as a special offer to my incredible podcast listeners, use the code PODCAST for $25 off the course price. Now back to the episode. Okay, so now that we're clear on what is and what is not a rebound, I want to touch on why we fall into them. The main reason that we fall into rebounds is that as humans, we do not like being in pain. We don't like discomfort. And when we are in pain and uncomfortable, we want to try to find the easiest solution to get out of that. That's just the nature of being a human being. So if you think about it, if you just lost a partner in a breakup, of course, it seems like the best way to fill that void left by a breakup is to get a new partner. So this is probably not even something that you are thinking about consciously, but it's just something that's happening subconsciously where, okay, I'm in pain because I just lost someone. I should find someone new. That will solve it all. It's just an innate characteristic of us that we want to have companionship and we want to have someone by our side. So don't like beat yourself up because you have this desire to be in a new relationship. Totally normal. Also, on that same token, if you don't feel like dating anyone and you don't feel like being in a new relationship, that's also okay too. We all cope differently. So, this is why it is so important to make sure that you have outlets and tools to cope with the pain. We can't just like surrender completely to the pain and let it take over. We really have to have a way to cope. So things like having a solid support system, self-care practices, journaling, talking about feelings, hobbies, and doing things that you love will all help fill. I'm going to call it that partner-shaped hole because when we lose something like that, we feel a very clear void. I have, used the term that it feels like the wind could blow through you because you feel so empty. Consider that the partner shaped hole, and you need to make sure that you are filling it with other things. Otherwise, the only thing that's going to make sense is to fill it with another partner. And then the next reason I think we fall into rebound relationships stems from codependency. And I'm not trying to diagnose anyone as a codependent. I definitely have a lot of codependency characteristics that I've struggled with for a lot of my life. But some of you might be the kind of person who is literally always in relationships, and you probably have been for as long as you can remember. So you haven't spent a lot of time single, and because of that, you have this fear of being single and alone. And partners can provide a lot for us. They can give us a sense of security, validation, not to mention the constant companionship. So we can grow accustomed to having that in our life and thereby forgetting that we are able to give all of that stuff to ourselves. And codependency and the fear of being alone, it can be a tough habit to break, but I swear to you, the best way to break it is by staying single and spending some time alone and learning that you are not going to die from it. You are going to be okay. You can relearn how to do so many things as a single person. And you're basically facing a fear that needs to be faced head on. Sure, there are ways to, heal codependency while being in a relationship, but if your fear really stems from like, I'm so afraid to be alone, that you just constantly find yourself bouncing from partner to partner, I really believe the best thing to do is to spend some time single. But you don't need to face it completely alone. This is where friends, like counselors, mentors, and family comes in. But if this sounds like you, I believe for you specifically, it is extra important for you not to get into a rebound relationship. I promise you that the joy, self-esteem, and freedom that you can get from learning how to love yourself single is much better than any love that you can get from a partner. And I am someone that is a true testament to that because I literally jumped from relationship to relationship, even though a lot of them maybe lasted like a couple weeks or a month, but I had this very strong fear of being alone. And once I was able to grow through that, it has been the most empowering thing I've been able to do for myself. And then there are likely a few other reasons that people get into rebounds: wanting to make their ex jealous, which I really, really don't recommend that you do. Or maybe you're trying to like act as if that you're doing better and you're trying to ignore the feelings. So you think like, okay, what would someone do who was over their ex? They would get into a new relationship. That will show it. Or, and this has happened to me, if you were not with someone that, like, if your ex was like not a great person and kind of treated you like was kind of an asshole, if you have some guy come into your life that treats you like a princess, it's very easy to get swept off your feet with that. So that can be another reason that we get into rebound relationships, is because there's this like super stark positive contrast between a new guy and our ex. But again, there are many more reasons that we get into it, but I think those are like the two core reasons that we tend to hop into rebound relationships. And I want to touch on this again. I want to let you know that having a rebound relationship does not make you a bad person. It's a very common thing to experience. And like I mentioned, it makes sense why we want them. We don't want to be in pain. At the end of the day, we just don't want to feel pain. But the important thing here is to have awareness. So if you are with someone for selfish motives, be honest and end it if you need to. But the first step is always going to be the awareness. And then just something to consider if you are in a rebound relationship is, the other person in a rebound tends to get really hurt because they probably don't know all of the things going on underneath. They might not know that you're still wrapped up with your ex. So at the end of the day, those relationships don't typically work. So the other person is also going to get hurt too. Not to mention all the harm that you can do to yourself by delaying the healing process and suppressing the emotions from the actual breakup. And then the last thing I want to touch on before ending is if you see your ex in a rebound relationship. So kind of going from like looking at this from the other side. If you haven't listened to my episode on when your ex starts dating someone new, I would definitely go listen to it, but I wanted to mention just a couple things about it. So the first thing is, I know this is tough love, but at the end of the day, it's just really none of your business. We can't control anyone but ourselves. We won't like that it's happening. We won't approve that it's happening. It will hurt, but it will help no one for you to, call them up and say, I know you're in a rebound. What are you doing? That's just not going to help anyone in the situation. The second thing is, this doesn't mean that he's over you. Just because he's with someone new doesn't mean he's over you or that you never meant anything to him. It could actually mean the exact opposite, that he is in so much pain that he needs this relationship as a distraction. Or maybe he is someone with codependent tendencies. That is a tongue twister. But don't spend your time trying to figure out his why on, why he had to jump into this. Just focus your attention on yourself. And then the last thing is, don't compare yourself to the new girl if you see this happening. It is very natural to want to do that, but one method that helped me with comparison, and it helped me real quick, is if you find yourself saying, she's better than me, she's prettier than me, or whatever, I want you to stop yourself and then say two nice things about you. So say, okay, if you say she's prettier than me, then I have to say, I'm super kind, I have beautiful hair, or whatever. Say two nice things about yourself, and I promise that habit will break pretty quickly. So long story short, I definitely don't recommend rebounds. And hopefully in this episode, you can better understand what that looks like, and even having the awareness of some of these motives. So, we might get into them out of loneliness. So if you know that you are prone to feeling lonely, make sure you're surrounding yourself with friends. There are ways to kind of figure out like, what are you most susceptible to, and then making sure that you are filling your cup in that area of your life so you don't fall into that. And just a reminder that rebounds actually hinder our ability to find a great new partner, because we're like kind of like throwing in these filler people, and then we still have to do the healing after that, and then we can find, so it can really end up just delaying the entire process. But if you have had a rebound, or if you are currently in one, it's okay. This is purely an awareness episode, and remember, it's okay to be single. It is so powerful to love your life single. And if you are someone that doesn't think you've ever experienced that, where you've been single and you're like, I'm very content with where I'm at, and I will be super happy when a partner comes in, but I'm not in a rush because I truly love this version of me. If you haven't had that experience, I highly encourage you to dig into that and try to experienced that. I know for me that being someone who's married in a relationship, I know that I am a much better partner, as well as like I'm a much happier person in general, because I don't feel like I have to constantly like morph myself into being a good partner, if that makes any sense. But basically, like I know I can 100% be myself, which makes me happier and therefore makes me a better partner, because I'm not in fear. I don't think like, oh my gosh, if my husband left me, my life would be completely over. Yes, I would be crushed and I would be so sad, but I know that I can get back to that place of loving my life single. So it just makes me have a lot more faith and be a lot more positive in all of my relationships. So if you haven't tried it, give it a chance. And I will see you guys back on here next week. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you loved it, I hope you'll leave me a review and share with your friends. If you're interested in learning more about my course, Heal Your Breakup, where I take you step by step through my entire healing process, you can find more info at my website, breakupbestie.com. And if you're new, don't forget to join our private Facebook group so you can connect with other women going through the same thing and seek support. You can search Breakup Bestie Support Group on Facebook to join. Lastly, if you're not already following me on Instagram, I share new tips and support every single day. You can find me at Your Breakup Bestie. Most importantly, hang in there, stay connected with loved ones, be nice to yourself, and remember, it's all going to be okay. I promise.